Take it to UFC 247, where Jon Jones and Dominick Reyes did battle with the light heavyweight title on the line. Reyes 12-0 as a pro, 6-0 thus far in his UFC career. Jon Jones needs no introduction, making his 4th title defense of his current reign, 11th defense overall. Mid-first round, Reyes came out with a flurry, throwing and not giving up an inch. Reyes in the 2nd round kept the pressure on. Then in the 3rd, things started to turn a little bit. Reyes began to slow down a little bit. The cardio of Jones came into play, scoring a number of takedowns. 3rd round really came into question when we were looking at the scorecards. And then in the 5th, championship rounds went the way of Jones. Both fighters celebrating as if they had won. Both believed that they did. But in the end, the champion, and still, Jon Bones Jones defends his title via unanimous decision. A hard-fought battle on both sides of that one. A historic night in the UFC, a historic night for Jon Jones. Now his 14 title fight wins. That's the most in the history of the sport. That's why many consider this man the greatest to ever do it in any division. He now has 11 title defenses, tied with Demetrius Johnson for the most in UFC history, and he is the first fighter in UFC history with 20 wins in a single division. Jones now possibly eyeing a move to heavyweight. Here to break down all the action, CBS senior combat analyst Brian Campbell. BC, first and foremost, the easiest, maybe the hardest question, the easiest one to ask. Did the judges get it right in the main event at 247?
From my standpoint, no. It was a very close fight, though, with Reyes jumping out and setting that insane pace. And Jones, you mentioned the gas tank coming back and rallying in such championship form. Hard to call this a straight-up robbery, although that 3rd judge scoring it 4 rounds to 1 for Jones, that just doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. But when you look at this fight, it really comes down to that 3rd round. I thought Reyes clearly set an insane pace early on and outstruck Jones in the first 2. I mentioned I love Jones's rally, but that 3rd round was even for the first 4 minutes of that round. I thought Reyes did enough in that final minute to rally. I thought he hurt Jones twice with big left hands, which was his calling card the whole night. On my scorecard, it's 49-48, 3 rounds to 2 for Dominick Reyes. Should you had shaded Jon Jones 3 rounds to 2, like 2 of the 3 judges did? No highway robbery there, a very close and entertaining fight. Certainly that 3rd scorecard is bringing up a lot of the question. Texas, not a great history as a state commission when it comes to scoring big-time championship boxing or MMA bouts. But at the end of the night, we saw a fun bout. We saw a fighter in Dom Reyes pretty much cement himself as an elite championship contender. And we saw Jon Jones just push those goalposts out even farther. You mentioned setting the record for championship wins. He also moved into a 3rd place tie for most UFC wins overall with 20. Keeping him 3 behind Donald Cerrone.
It begs the question again. We talked about it earlier in the week. Jon Jones used to be a finisher. It seemed like he came out in this fight more cerebral, similar to his past few fights. 6 of his last 8 fights have gone the distance. Is this a new Jon Jones? Maybe to draw a parallel here with, let's say, Floyd Mayweather in the tail end of his career, a defensive fighter who knows how to win it on a scorecard.
Yeah, you're certainly seeing a much more efficient Jon Jones, a smarter version of him at age 32 to sort of offset some of the physicality that he's losing, whether it be speed and explosiveness. I don't think that's what played into part in this fight, however. Obviously, Jones at 32 is going to be different than that original guy who leaped onto the scene, youngest UFC heavyweight youngest champion in UFC history in 2011 at age 23 when he just exploded. Although he's more efficient these days, you got to give Dom Reyes a ton of credit. He came out and set an insane pace. I thought he hurt Jon Jones twice in those first 2 opening rounds. Jones always has that chin in his back pocket. He certainly relied on it, never really falling into too much trouble. But I think this was Jon realizing he was going to have to weather the storm early against an unbeaten, hungry opponent who had size, who had speed, and certainly had a very dangerous left hand and was willing to rely on it. I think Jon also thought if I can drag him into deep waters, I'm probably going to have a chance to wear him down and lean on my cardio, lean on my experience. In the end, that's what Jon Jones was able to do, regardless of how you scored the fight. Just wasn't able to get that stoppage, which is why the crowd in Houston was booing so badly when those disputed scorecards were announced. I don't think Jon Jones is washed up. I don't think he's necessarily over that hill, while still I believe in his physical prime. But you're seeing a guy who's much more calculated, not taking as many chances. And against a young, hungry guy, we said coming in, if you don't answer back and gain back his respect, he may end up being there all night. It turned out Dom Reyes had 5-round stamina. He was there the entire evening.
Albeit in a loss, no doubt a coming out party for those of us who may not have known Dominick Reyes. A big night for him on the biggest stage. What's next for both of these fighters? I know there's been talks about Jon maybe going up and finding that fight at the heavyweight ranks. That leaves the light heavyweight to Reyes and whoever else it may be. What's next for both of these fighters as they move forward?
You know, it's a very interesting spot for Jon. You talked about all the records he had. He would already have that title defense record if he hadn't been stripped of his title on 3 separate occasions for disciplinary actions. Will he stay in the division to try to get one more title defense and tie Demetrius Johnson? Well, if you look at who's left, who's available, the only 2 viable candidates are facing each other very soon when Corey Anderson faces Jan Blachowicz. Jon's been teasing a move up to heavyweight. We all know that would be giant business. Also teasing a super fight against current middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. Jon has been so passive-aggressive in recent years when it comes to talking about the idea of going to heavyweight that I think he wants to kind of hang in the middle and see his chances right here. If I had a bet, I think he stays at 205 pounds, tries to put that title defensive record away, and then really picks his spots on making a move up to heavyweight. Certainly champion right now, current one, Stipe Miocic, is going to have his hands full in a potential trilogy bout this summer with Daniel Cormier. No reason for Jon Jones to crash that party just yet. I'd like to see him face the winner of Anderson and Blachowicz.
Jones Reyes may have hung in the balance in the final moments, but the co-main event did not. Let's take a look at the action between Valentina Shevchenko and Kaitlin Chikadze for the women's flyweight championship. Chikadze, winner in 5 of her last 6 fights, in a position to shock the world, but shock only came on one side here. Late first round, Chikadze throws a kick, and I think right there is when she knew she was in trouble. Valentina catches the kick, takes her down, and then from there lands a devastating elbow, opening up a cut over the left eye. Bloody in Chikadze. Mid-second round now, Shevchenko connects on a wheel kick right on the chin. It was a masterclass by Valentina Shevchenko early in the third. Shevchenko gets the takedown, moves into the crucifix position, landing heavy punches and elbows until the ref had seen enough. This one stopped. Valentina Shevchenko shows why she was such a heavy favorite, stopping Kaitlin Chikadze in the third round by TKO. BC, it was no doubt a masterclass by Valentina Shevchenko. Never in doubt. She just carried a completely different pace than her opponent. Let's put on the matchmaker hat now because she's entertaining. She has name recognition. Do we get to see her against Nunes at any point?
I think we will see that this calendar year. When you just look at the cupboard at 125 pounds, there is no one on paper or not who really has a chance against Shevchenko. Maybe you got Joanne Calderwood, who's up next in the bullpen, but that's not a name that's going to move anybody either. What you saw tonight was Shevchenko painting her masterpiece, showing every facet of what makes her great. The only fight available to her that would certainly move big numbers and would matter would be that trilogy bout against Amanda Nunes. Yes, they fought twice before, both at 135 pounds, but both were close decisions. And many people, including myself, thought Shevchenko had done enough in that rematch, which took place for that bantamweight title. She's very open to that idea. She wants to do it. Nunes a little bit more hit or miss, but I got news for you. Amanda Nunes has no one to fight either in the 2 divisions where she's champion. We're talking about the 2 best female fighters in the world. You can also argue they're right there in that discussion of best fighters, male or female overall. Shevchenko really is that good. And like Joe Rogan said on the broadcast tonight, she's getting better every single fight, and that is scary to watch.
Give us the best and then figure out the rest. BC, we appreciate the time as always. Great stuff on UFC 247.